sit in a little bit of sunlight. You see this? No, let me do it this way so that it looks kind of cute. I know y'all be saying, "What kind of person is this? She's not ready. She's just coming to the class to just." I'm not sure that I like this. It was longer, and I kind of trimmed it. I wanted to do the Whitney Houston kind of look, but you know what? I don't like it. I'm gonna wear a different wig. Hold up. Let's wear this other one. I don't like this one. I kind of wore it for exercise today, but I'm looking at it now and I'm going, yeah. Here, let me start my YouTube, my TikTok live while I'm doing this. While I'm figuring out my hair. See, I mean, it's good quality hair though. We'll go live. Oh, I don't know what is going on here. Live, go live. I don't know what is going on with that. But you see, it's like, it's not, maybe if I did this to it, maybe it might look better. I don't know. Maybe did a little bit of this to it, or maybe this to it. Nah, starts looking hokey. Like, okay, so let me pin it down this way and see. As it's actually not bad hair. It's just that the ends started looking strange, and then I was like, here, let me kind of do this shag cut to it. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this one. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's class that started with angst about what kind of hair I want to wear. It looks better now, right? Yeah. Because, that bang thing hanging over the head, you know. And then look at my face. You see my face looks a little brighter. I got a facial a couple of days ago with extractions and things like that. So it's like, I think it's after you get extractions, it's like your face breaks out. That's why I like looking at myself on TikTok. TikTok has this filter, beauty filter. So I actually look a lot better than this on YouTube. But hi, everybody. So welcome to Queen, Annette, Anya Bingy. Hello to Stanley Funga. Thank you very much. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that that's what they say, like, when you get the facial, it will first break out a lot more, and then the face will start calming down. Hi, Mrs. Allen. Michelle, Michelin, Micheline, Lena, Charles. Of course, we know where St. Kitts is. Why would you be explaining that St. Kitts is in the Caribbean? Who doesn't know that St. Kitts is in the Caribbean? OMG. I think it looks better like this. I think like just pinning back that bang looking portion. Yeah, I think it looks better like this. Yeah. It was a lot longer, and then I was struggling with it, and then it was matting up at the back. But I think it looks better like this. So I think I'm just leave it alone. I think I'll just leave it alone like this. Just leave it alone. Okay. So hi everybody, I'm Dr. Tochi, aka Papa Dr. Tochi, mama of the men's and the women's. Should I trim this little bit off? See how this piece is just sticking out. Here, let me tuck it in somewhere. I'll deal with it later. Your favorite spiritual mother. And for those of you that I'm visiting in your dreams and y'all are like, "Yeah, you were in my dreams telling me what to do, and I saw you in my dreams." I wanna let y'all know I'm tired. I wake up tired. Okay, I'm not complaining, but I'm waking up tired. It's like I wake up and it's like I've been doing so much at night in my dreams. It's like I'm, like, tired. I wake up tired. Hello, Nana Iroha. Wow, I'm seeing, like, new faces here today. New faces. Remember, my website is at drtochi.com or tochi.us. Okay, so if you need to get a consultation with me, you can go to my website and book it. I don't do consultations outside of my website. Okay, there are too many scammers and strange people out there. Okay, so if someone is writing you in your DMs, telling you that they're me, tell them I want to see your face. That should quickly set your mind at rest. Hello, Elder Light. So, because they're just like people out in these streets acting wild. Okay. So, oh my God, Mrs. Allen, I dreamt you also, Dr. Tochi, but I'll tell you privately. The dream plain as daylight, your words were clear as day. See what I'm saying? Hello, Panda. You know, before I get into today's class, okay, we're going to get into today's class, but have you ever had like at night, it's like you're doing this and meeting these people and you're doing all these things. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're like tired. It's like you weren't really sleeping. It's like you were working all night long. Like that's how I feel because there's sometimes when I sleep, I will remember like what I was doing in the sleep, but many times I don't remember. It's people who now write me and say, "Hey, you know, Dr. Chochi, you were in my dream and you told me to do this, and you told me to do this, and you told me to do that." And I'm like wondering, really? And some of the things people are saying that I tell them to do in their dreams, or things I tell them to say, or sometimes I'm participating with them in a ritual or pulling them out of a ritual or putting them in a ritual or helping them with a ritual and things like that. And then I keep wondering, I'm like, is that the reason why I'm waking up so tired in the morning? But there sometimes, hello, Leonard. There's sometimes I actually wake up in the morning and I will remember that I have been doing a whole bunch of things with people I don't personally know. Okay, you did everything and it works. Okay. I think this year, 2025, and I'm going to see how it works out for 2026, but I think 2025 has been the year that I've received the highest number of reports that people have seen me, they've been seeing me in their dreams. I want to say it's 2025. A lot more people will say to me, yeah, I saw you in my dreams. Okay. So, um, maybe that's a class in itself to understand what does it mean when you see Dr. Tochi in your dreams. Anywho, so we're dealing with the seventh obstacle today, and it's the obstacle of conflicts. If you are experiencing a lot of conflicts in your life, one of the possible reasons why you're experiencing a lot of conflicts in your life is because you have not answered your spiritual call. Now, there are other reasons why you could experience conflict in your life. Okay, so let's put that out there and be clear about that. So, spiritual call isn't not answering your spiritual call is not the only reason why. There are other reasons as well that you could possibly be experiencing conflicts. But when it comes to answering the call on your life, experiencing conflicts can be one of the things you experience. If you are like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, I don't want to be bothered. Please remember to like and share the video. Like and share if you're on TikTok. Please remember to tap. If you're on YouTube, remember to give the live stream a thumbs up. That lets the algorithm inform other people that class has started and that we are in class, okay? So when we talk about conflicts, when it relates to your spiritual call and you ignoring that spiritual call, you will understand that we're talking about a variety of conflicts. You will have personal conflicts. You'll have spiritual conflicts. Some people will fight during the day and fight during the night. They'll be fighting in their daytime with other people, and in the nighttime, they will be fighting too. They'll be fighting people in their dreams. They'll be fighting masquerades. Okay, do you know what a masquerade is? Is there anybody who doesn't know what a masquerade is? So you might find yourself fighting masquerades in your dreams. You might find yourself fighting animals in your dreams. You might find yourself fighting aliens in your dreams. Okay. It's just going to be conflict galore. You could say good morning to somebody. Hello, Divine Suki. You could say good morning to somebody, and within 5 minutes, it's already become a fight. I'm gonna trim this off. My scissors. It's just like sticking out there and looking at me. See that? Okay. Thank you for liking Divine Suki. So you could say good morning, and within 5 minutes of saying good morning to that person, you're already involved in a conflict. Have you ever experienced this where you're having a conversation with somebody and you are happy, the person is happy, and you're laughing and stuff, and within a few minutes, the person, like, it becomes a conflict. The person's like, "You are so rude." And you're like, "Say what? We were just laughing and joking now. How did we just go from 0 to 100?" Has that ever happened to you? You were laughing and joking with the person, and you're like, "Hee hee hee, ha 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 ha." And then out of nowhere, the person's like, "You know what? I just dislike you," or "You're not a nice person," or and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 where did that just come from? We were just here laughing and joking. What's going on?" We're also talking about that kind of conflict. And the conflict is coming out of nowhere. Like, there's no reason, there's no rhyme, there's no reason. I've had two of those. One was with a one of my kids I went to school with in high school, and another one was with one of my cousins. And we were laughing and joking and carrying on, and I was laughing, they were laughing, we were joking and stuff. And then when we're about to hang up, we're like, "Yeah, we'll talk to you later." The person says, "Oh, by the way, there's something I want to tell you." And I said, "Okay, so well, what is it?" They're like, "You know what? I just wanted to let you know you're very rude." I was like, "Oh, is that right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, so what exactly happened here?" "Well, during our conversation, you said this and that, and the way I didn't like the way you talked to me. You were rude to me." And I almost hung up the phone on you. And I'm like, "So why didn't you just hang up the phone?" And they're like, "Well, I, I just wanted to hear what you had to say." But you were heing and haing for the past 2 hours. And now we're about to hang up the phone. You're saying I was rude and you didn't like it and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So we hung up the phone. I said, have a good night, and hung up the phone. And I sat and observed. And I started reviewing in my mind, did I actually say anything to piss this person off? And in my mind, I didn't say anything. We were talking about school days, we were talking about experiences, we were gossiping about our relatives and friends, and like, do you remember this person did this or this person did that? You know. And so, you're sitting and going over in your mind the conversation, and you don't say anything. Y- Tag miss. Okay, thank you. Good to see you too. Okay. And you're like, okay. And then a few days later, a few weeks later, the person is reaching out to you like nothing happened. Okay, good. The person is reaching out to you like nothing happened. And then you're like, am I crazy? Are they crazy? Or both of us crazy? Or am I in a different reality? And they're reaching out to you like nothing happened, like they didn't say anything to you. You need to understand that there is a message, a spiritual message being conveyed. You need to understand that there's a spiritual message being conveyed. When you have these kinds of conflicts, you need to understand that there's a spiritual message being conveyed. One of the challenges we have in our spiritual life is not paying attention. When we don't pay attention, we miss a lot of things. Remember to like and share the video, okay? Let's get those likes up so that lets the platform inform people that we're in class, okay? Do me that favor if you don't mind. Thank you for the likes, Pretty Shorty and Divine Suki. Thank you very much. Okay. So we need to understand that there's a message being conveyed. I had someone who told me a story about how someone came to them and asked for water. They were out and about, and the person says, "Hey, um, do you happen to have water in you?" And she had water in her vehicle. So she, went to her vehicle and got bottled water. Now, I'm just looking around to see if I can see bottled water here. Y'all know that bottled water is in a bottle. It's closed, it's sealed. She gave the person a brand new, unused, unopened bottle of water. The person said, "Oh, thank you so much." The person opened it, drank it, and turned to her and said, "You know, you're a very wicked person. I just want to let you know you're a very wicked person." And she was like, "Say what? Say who? Say where?" And the person said, "I just wanted to let you know you're a very wicked person." And threw the rest of the water away and walked away. And she was so upset by it. And she was telling me about it. I told her that was a message. Don't take it personally. That was a message. Somebody you don't know. Please give me water. Please give me water to drink. You give the person water. The person turns around and curses you. Thank you for sharing the live, Paul. You need to understand that's a message. And your job, your function in that moment is not to run after that person and start attacking them, even though that's your first instinct. How dare you? You wanted water and I gave you the water, and then now you're cursing me. No, no, no. You need to stop and say, what's going on? You need to stop and say what's going on. What message is being conveyed to me now that I need to understand? There's an African restaurant in town, um, and somebody was telling me this, so I'm going to say allegedly because I don't know this personally, but this is what I made to understand because I was driving past that restaurant and they had a for lease sign on the window of this restaurant. And it's a very, very nice African restaurant, Nigerian restaurant, actually. And they have like a lot of good food. I've, been there a couple of times, but I was driving past there and I saw a for lease sign. And I was looking and I'm seeing there's still tables and chairs. The place is still set up like a restaurant, but the lights were off. Nobody was there. And there was a huge for lease sign in the window. And I was like, I wonder what happened here. Maybe they're moving to another location, something like that. It turns out, allegedly, that this restaurant, as I heard it, they had a man who would come by and he would ask for food. He was like a homeless man, a street man. He would come by and ask them for food. And most, I'm going to use a broad brush here. Okay. I'm going to use a broad brush here. Most immigrants I know will give that food, um, especially if they're business owners. If someone comes to their business, most immigrants I know here would give that food. And a lot of the reason behind giving the food is tied to their religious beliefs and cultural beliefs. So, and remember, I just said I'm using a broad brush here because obviously not all immigrants do that. Okay. And obviously, there are all people who are citizens of the land who will do that too. I'll have that moving balloon behind me. Okay. So, remember, I just said I'm using a broad brush. So every time this man would go there and ask them for food, they would give him food. So on this particular day, he showed up again and asked them for food, and they gave him the food. So after they gave him the food, they were, going about their business, attending to their customers and whatnot. And it was time to close for the day in the restaurant, and the guy would not leave. He would not leave the restaurant. And they were like, hey, you gotta go, we're closing for the night. And the guy wouldn't leave. And he became belligerent and a conflict started. And so they tried to force him out and he fell down and passed. That's it. They tried to force him out of the restaurant. He fell down and passed. That was it. And you know how these things work in this part of the world. They call the popo. They start investigating who touched him. Nobody's asking or saying, "You were kind to him and gave him this food. What a shame." No. The kindness became irrelevant. Now it became investigation. Who touched him? Who pushed him? Who was the last person to touch him? And try to shove him out of the place before he fell down and passed. So already there's a criminal case going on, civil case going on. The health department got involved and they shut down the restaurant and said, well, you can't operate because now someone has passed in your restaurant. And that's how that business got decimated because of an act of kindness. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't be kind to people? That's not the point. The point isn't you shouldn't be kind to people. But again, the point is, what is the message? Why? Why? Why is this happening? When people do not answer their spiritual call, they will have bizarre experiences like this. You're running your business, you're doing well, you're kind to people, you're polite to your customers, you go over and above and beyond, and something comes out of somewhere, some nonsense comes out of somewhere and shuts your business down. And usually, when this kind of thing happens, it's because you have been ignoring all the little signs, little signs. You've been ignoring, ignoring. So now a big thing has to happen to get your attention. I would not be surprised if somebody connected to that business was called to spiritual practice and they're like, no, I want to go to my church or I want to go to my mosque. I want to do my own thing. I will have nothing to do with my culture or I want nothing to do with my ancestral traditions. I'm not gonna have anything to do with my ancestors. I would not be surprised. I'm not saying that that's the reason, but I would not be surprised. There are stories after stories about stories of people in business whose businesses suddenly collapsed because they did not answer their spiritual call. Tagma says that video about how spirit guides fight for you and your interests. Yeah, they will fight for you and your interests if you are in alignment with your spirit guides and you are doing what they need you to do. But if your spirit guides have been giving you a message, hey, you've been called to spiritual practice, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, and you're like, nah, I'm the head of the choir. I am the head chorister. I am an important person in my church. I'm not going to do that. Do not be surprised if and when calamity hits. Do not be surprised. Do not cry when calamity hits. You could have a good job. The prospects are looking good. You go to work one day and you get accused of something you did not do or something you did not say. And then suddenly you see yourself battling for your career. Well, thank you, Tegmas. Thank you, Tegmas. It's happened to me, and it's happened to a number of people I know. You go to work, and before you know it, it's like somebody's accusing you of something you didn't do or didn't say, or they misrepresent or misinterpret what you have said or what you're doing. That's a message. What I say to people is go get a divination to be sure what is going on. Go speak with your spiritual practitioner, whoever that person is. And when I say spiritual practitioner, I am not talking about your religious leader, unless your religious leader is also a spiritual practitioner. Don't sit back and hope for the best. There are many of us who will sit back and say, oh, I am trusting that something, the wind will blow and this is, no, take action on your own behalf. Don't be lazy. Take action on your own behalf. Don't assume. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, it's just the demon, or Satan, or something." Find out why is this happening so that you can address it expeditiously. Okay? Are you understanding what we're discussing here? Is there anybody who is not understanding what we're discussing here? Is there anybody here not understanding what is being said so that I can address that now? These conflicts will even extend to your relationships. Your husband knows that you always do this thing, you always behave this way, or you always say this thing. And then one day he wakes up and he decides, and he will say to you, "I have tolerated this long enough. We've been in this marriage for 25 years, and now I've had enough. I want a divorce." And you're like, "Wait, what? 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 Where? What?" You told me that this is what you like the most about me. How come now this is a problem? That's a sign. That's a sign. The problem isn't necessarily your husband. The problem is you need to understand what message is being delivered to you. And it is not necessarily another person trying to mess up your marriage. There are people who will come to me for consultations and say, "I know my husband is having an affair." Well, how do you know your husband is having an affair? Well, he doesn't pay attention to me. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And he did this and didn't do the other. And I can sense that and there's whole thing going on. And then we will do a divination and we find out that there's no other person involved. Maybe he has been called to spiritual practice. Maybe you have been called to spiritual practice. Maybe there's some other things going on. But our inclination as human beings is to blame others when a problem shows up. But we need to be able to ask ourselves, what if another person is not responsible for what's going on? And I do have an old video class on YouTube. You can watch it, called "What If You Are the Problem?" What if you are the problem? You're thinking as the other person doing whatever it is that they're doing. But what if you are the person who's the problem? Then what? And many times we're not willing to admit that we ourselves could be the problem. Okay. Let me say this thing about being called to spiritual practice. Because I recently got two or three people who asked me this question during a consultation, and I want to address it. Okay. Being called to spiritual practice doesn't mean that you have to halt your life and do nothing else but do what I'm doing. Oh, I gotta be a spiritual teacher. I gotta be a spiritual practitioner. I gotta um, do divinations. I gotta do this, and I can't do anything else. That's not true. When we say being called to spiritual practice, it's very broad. It's very, very broad. You can be a diviner, somebody who does divinations like I do, as a spiritual practitioner. Maybe that's your area. Okay? You could be a cowrie shell reader, a bone reader, water reader, card reader, whatever the case may be, however you do your divination. You could also be a healer. When you lay hands on somebody, they get healed. Their condition improves. There's some of you who have that gift, that call. And if you are a healthcare professional, like a doctor, a nurse, a therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist, physical therapist, different kinds of therapists, and you have answered your call, and your call is healing, you will do exceptionally well in your career. Because you will understand healing at a level that others who do not have that call will not understand. There is this guy from a medical doctor from Ghana. He comes from a healing lineage. In his lineage, there are healing practitioners in their lineage. And he went to Ghana, his home country. I don't believe he was born in Ghana. I think he was born in Canada. And he went to Ghana to get initiated because his parents or grandparents are from Ghana. And he went and got initiated into that healing lineage in Ghana. And he returned to Canada to practice. As of the time I knew of this guy, he had 0 mortality rates. He became so good, and he has some specialty, some surgical specialty. He became so good, he was being invited by hospitals in different countries to come and show them his procedure and show them how he did his surgery. But this was something, one time he was being interviewed, and there was something he said that was very interesting. Someone asked him and said, you do your surgery so well, it's so precise. Your patients love you. They refer other people to you. I mean, you have a waiting list. People will come and say, no, I don't want any other person to do the surgery but you. How are you going about this? What is happening? What makes you to be distinctive and different from other surgeons? And that's when he shared during the interview that he had actually gone home to his parents' home in Ghana to be initiated into his lineage. Secondly, he said whenever he was doing surgery, and listen to this, whenever he was doing surgery, he always had something like a sensation. He always had the sensation telling him, cut here, don't cut here, look over here. So, yes, he would have the MRI scan or CT scan or the X-ray or ultrasound, but there was something like a sensation, and he said it came like a knowing that will say to him, "Look over here." Or it would say, and he was describing specific surgery. So he wasn't making this up. He was like, there was one surgery, he said, it was a difficult case. And something was telling him, move this organ to the side and look here. And and the person is cut open, the person is on the, OR table, the person is unconscious. And he moved the organ and he saw the problem. And he said, that kind of knowing you cannot get from books. No one can teach you that kind of knowing. No one can teach you that knowing. No one. No one can teach you that knowing. That's an example of somebody who has answered his spiritual call. He's still a medical doctor, but his spiritual call was in healing, and he honored it and he accepted it. He gave praise and thanks to the guides that were responsible in his lineage for healing, the healing arts, the healing gift, the healing knowledge. He acknowledged them, he venerated them, he gave them offerings, he gave them libations, and he did not forget them. So they made him great. And like I said, there were different hospitals in different countries inviting him to come and perform difficult surgeries. Some people are called to the spiritual practice of herbs. They know what to do with herbs. They know what to do with the leaves, the barks, the roots, plants. If someone comes to them and says, hey, I have a problem, they will know exactly what plant will solve that problem. And I want you to listen to what I have to say about this herbs. The people with the spiritual calling of herbalism are not restricted to healing. They are not restricted to healing. They know what herbs attract wealth, attract money. They know what herbs can get you a husband, can get you a wife, can make you attractive. They know what herbs can break hexes and curses and jinxes and bad things. Sounds like Osane is with them. Osane is not the only spur guide in charge of healing, but Inifa is one of them. They know what herbs can be used to purify a house, to do cleanses, to free people from certain conditions. They know how to use herbs for a variety of purposes. That's a master herbalist. Most people who talk about herbs, they're like, oh, yeah, I know the herbs for malaria. I know the herbs for headaches. I know the herbs for cancer. I know the herbs for tummy ache. I know the herbs for. But a master herbalists knows more than the herbs for healing? Queen Nania Bingi says the herb thing is very heavy in my bloodline. Okay, you're very welcome, Kionada Carter. Okay. The master herbalists can do things with herbs that you cannot even begin to imagine. The master herbalist knows what herbs are good for protection, what herbs are good to open your third eye. If you are somebody who is into divination, they will give you the herbs that will enhance your divinatory ability. They know the herbs that will open you up so that you will hear from spirit more clearly. That's a master herbalist. But like I said, most people, when they talk of herbalism, they're talking about using it for diseases and conditions. And so you might find somebody who has a spiritual call of herbalism. They might have an herbal store. They might be working as a pharmacist. They might be working as a pharmacy tech. Okay. I have been to one of these drugstores, and I was talking to a lady from India, the country of India. I'm being very precise. The country of India. And I needed to wait a bit for them to put together my prescription. And we started talking about herbs. And I told her about an herb that I had ordered from India. And she looked to the left, looked to the right. And when she looked to the left, looked to the right, I understood why she was looking. What is for the third eye, please? I don't know. Go watch my video on the third eye activation. I already have videos on third eye activation, okay, on my YouTube channel. Okay, I already have that. When she was looking to the left, and should I share this forbidden fruit? I don't know. Go watch the video. I don't think in the video, I'm not an herbalist. Tagmez, I'm not an herbalist, okay. Um, so should we share this forbidden fruit? Okay, Mrs. Allen says that video on the third eye is good. So go look for the video on the third eye. I think I have one or two videos on the third eye. So I don't know if I should say this. Maybe I'm saying too much. Mrs. Allen is like, say it. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it. Yeah. She's like, "Say it. You had better say it. Say it." Tagmas is like, "Speak." Devisic is like, "Yes, please." Yeah, no, I have to be careful. And the reason why I have to be careful is I don't want people to get the wrong ideas. I don't want people to misuse information. So that's why when I'm going along in a trajectory, I have to stop and think about what I'm saying. Okay. I will say more in the member classes. How about that? So I'll say more about this in the member class, but she looked to her left to the right, and there's a reason why she looked to her left to the right. And it wasn't just for privacy. If you are my member on Patreon or YouTube, when next we're going to have our member class, I believe next Saturday or so, remind me about the story and I will explain to you why, one of the reasons why she was looking to her left or her right. There's a spiritual reason why she looked to the left to the right. So when next we have a member class, remind me of the story and then I'll go into depth about that. Then she said, "Oh, how interesting. You ordered an herb from India." I said, "Yes." And she said, "You know I'm from India." I said, "Well, I didn't know you were from India. I'm not going to assume that I know that you're from India." And she goes, "Yes, I'm from India." And she says, um, "I probably shouldn't say this, but because you have ordered herbs from India, when you have the time, look up," and she mentioned some herb. And I want you to see how she worded what she said. She said, "In India, we use it for this. But here in America, people don't know about it." And I said, "Understood." She had to be very careful not to be seen as prescribing anything to me. Because as a pharmacist, she cannot prescribe without the directions of a medical doctor. She can administer, she can dispense, but she cannot prescribe. So the best way for her to convey that information was to say, "In India, we use it this way. For this condition, we use it like this." And because I'm also an immigrant, I understood the message behind the message. That's a beautiful thing sometimes when you've been exposed to multiple cultures, you learn how to interpret words very differently. And the person doesn't have to talk too much. You're right, Mrs. Allen. She has to protect her license. And just as an aside, this is a very good skill to acquire. Learning how to understand what people are saying without making them talk too much. Because if a person has information they want to share with you and you are making them talk too much, chances are they will not share that information fully with you. When I'm sharing something with somebody and I say something and they say, "Well, what do you mean?" When they immediately say to me, "What do you mean?" that usually gives me an indication that the person doesn't know how to read between the lines and hear what is not said. So I will often not say more. And it happens. I might say something to somebody and they haven't even thought about what I just said. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And they start dissecting the words. I already know that no, this person, no, you cannot speak to this person in code. You can't speak to this person in code. And it's not a bad thing. Some people just don't know how to understand coded language. So it becomes very difficult to teach them hidden knowledge. So I'm not sure the best way for people to learn coded language outside of interacting with different cultures. Because if you have experience interacting with different cultures, you will learn how people speak in codes. Why is this important? A lot of spiritual information is communicated in code. A lot of spiritual information is communicated in code. If I'm talking with an experienced spiritual practitioner and they are giving me instructions in front of uninitiated people, the uninitiated people might be hearing us speaking English, but they may not understand fully what we're talking about. So, one of the things you can do that will help you, especially if you're a spiritual practitioner called to spiritual practices, learn how to speak in code. And it's not imaginary language because there's some people going, okay, I'm going to say stuff like, is busy in the hizzy. No, that's not what we're talking about. It's not talking about, it's not speaking in slang, though there might be some slang involved in it. For example, I could call another practitioner on the phone and ask them, "How are you standing?" Or ask them, "How are you sitting?" So let me put that out there. What, if you were sitting and listening to me ask another spiritual practitioner, "How are you standing?" "How are you sitting?" How would you interpret that, what I just said? What do you think it means? Let's see if we have experienced spiritual practitioners in the room. If you heard me saying, okay, Tagma says spiritual health. No, no. If you were in the room where I said to another spiritual practitioner, "How are you standing? How are you sitting?" Or "How are you sitting?" What do you think it means? How are you feeling? No. Are there any Freemasons in the house? I want to use another analogy that will clarify this. Any Freemasons in the house? Cupcake says, "Is things okay with you?" No. Any Freemasons or Rosicrucians in the house? What is your position? What is your rank? No, it has nothing to do with rank or position. Good try, Nikki. Any Freemasons or Rosicrucians in the house? Good try, good try. Are there any Rosicrucians or Freemasons in the house? Um, it has nothing to do with the person's condition. Okay, Scorpio intuitive. Are all the preparations ready for what we discussed? I love that. Unfortunately, no, but I love that. There's another code for that statement you just provided, Scorpio intuitive. There's another Stephanie. Stephanie, you're close. Stephanie said, "Are you available?" Stephanie, you're close. Now, for those of you who speak more than one language, I want you to use your culture to interpret that question. Is everything all good? No. The question is, how are you sitting? How are you standing? So I could either say, how are you sitting? Or how are you standing? So for those of you who speak more than one language, who have been exposed to more than one culture, I want you to use your cultural lens to interpret that. C'est passé? No. Check yourself. Are you aligned? No, 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 no. The person who's come closest is Stephanie. Okay, so while you're trying to figure out, are you still in agreement with our previous discussion? No, 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 no. Like I said, Stephanie is the closest. So if you look at Stephanie's comment. Now, imagine that I have to talk with another spiritual practitioner and I said to them, how are you sitting? How are you standing? Are you sitting well? And the person's like, what do you mean? What do you mean by am I sitting well? I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean am I sitting well? And there are other people in the room there. Do you think I'm going to move forward and start discussing deep spiritual secrets with them? The answer is no, I won't. Because if I have to explain that to you, and you say you are an experienced spiritual practitioner, then that means any other thing I say after that, I will have to explain everything to you in the hearing of everybody who is sitting in that room with us. Now, each spiritual tradition, they have their own codes within their language, but there are certain codes that are universal. There are certain codes that are easily understood once you are a practitioner. So once you're in practice and someone says it, then it's like a light goes on it and you instinctively know the correct answer to it. Mrs. Allen says, Wagwan. No. Stephanie got it right. Are you available now and alone? Stephanie's correct. Hope Milton says, how many customers do you have? No, that's not the meaning of it. Stephanie's correct. Should we give Stephanie a prize for that? Stephanie, you already won a prize from me before, right? So I don't know about giving you another prize for that. Stephanie got it right. Are you available now and are you alone? And Stephanie, did you translate that to your vernacular in order to decipher that? Let's see the process you went through to figure that out. Okay. So you come to learn that you can be a spiritual practitioner. You can be a spiritual practitioner and be other things. You can have your regular job. Okay. Give Steph a gift. Okay, we'll give Steph a gift. We'll give her a prize. So send me an email, Stephanie. Okay. So you can be a spiritual practitioner and you can be some other thing. Another question that people ask is, can I answer my spiritual call in a church setting or in a religious setting, in a mosque, in a synagogue or a temple? And oftentimes I will say no, for the simple reason that if, let's say, for instance, you have the gift of divination and you, your gift is such that you can look at someone and you can read their energy. Okay, Stephanie says in my mother's tongue. Yeah. So you figured it out. Right. So when you're hearing this in plain English, it becomes difficult to understand. But once you translated that to a different language, the answer became obvious. Right. So now, let's say, for instance, you have this spiritual gift where you can read people's energy and you can tell what's going on with them. So maybe you can read someone's energy and you can see maybe if they have illnesses or problems or, energy blockages and things of that nature. And you say, okay, I want to use that gift in a church. So your pastor is like, okay, I see you have the spiritual gift and I want you to use it in the church. The reason why it will not work so well for you in the church is because whatever you see has to be interpreted through the lens of the church and not through the lens of spirit. And instead of being under the guidance of your spirit guide who is assisting you with that gift, you are placing yourself under the control and guidance of your pastor. So let me give an example. So let's say you're looking at somebody and you see that they're about to have a cardiovascular event. And you're looking at the person and energetically you're seeing the blockages in the person's body. And your gift is such that you can tell that this person is going to have this event, a stroke, aneurysm, heart attack, whatever the case may be, that they're going to have it in roughly 6 months' time. If you were practicing on your own, you could look at that person and say, okay, here's what's about to happen. I need you to go see the doctor, and here's the kind of doctor I need you to see. Or maybe you could say to them, I this is coming down the pike. I need you to see an herbalist, a master herbalist. Go and see the doctor and support it with this complementary healthcare protocol. But if you are doing this under the aegis of a church, your pastor may say to you, if you see anything, refer them to me. Or maybe your pastor is standing beside you as you're doing an energetic read of that person, and you see that problem and you say, here's the problem that's coming. And your pastor says, praise the Lord. I am putting you on 30 days of fasting. I need you to sow a seed so that this disease will be taken away from you. You have not been allowed to tell the person the true solution to their issue. So you have seen the issue, but you are not being allowed to tell them the true solution to their issue. Do you understand the distinction I'm making here? So you might say, I see you suffering a cardiovascular event 6 months from now, and the pastor beside you, or the evangelist, or the prophet beside you will be saying, hallelujah. Let us now start casting and binding the demons of stroke. Let us start casting and binding the demons of heart attack. Let's start casting and binding. But that thing that pastor is saying is not the solution to the problem. And so because the person believes the pastor, believes everything the pastor is saying, and you are operating in that pastor's church, you cannot go against whatever the pastor is saying. Even though you know that the so-called casting and binding of the demons of stroke is not going to solve that person's problem. You already know. But you can't say anything because that's your pastor and you're operating in their church. And so you go along with it. Kabush kabash, babakabushe, gandusa ganduske, abido shaker. As you can tell, I'm a fan of what's his name? I really like that guy. What's his name? Odumeji. Maybe I should make some time and visit Nigeria, go check him out in his church. He is so entertaining, but he's so real. He's just real, no filter. Okay, that's by the way. So it becomes problematic when people say, oh, can I express? Can I use my spiritual gifts? Can I answer my call in the church? Because now you're subjecting your life destiny to that church, to that denomination. But that wasn't what you were called to do. You were called to serve people directly, not through a church. But people will do that because they want to be approved. They want they want to be powerful within that church, within that organization, within that mosque, within that group. So everybody be saying, yeah, prophetess this, or prophet that, or apostle this, or evangelist that. But there comes a time if the person, yeah, you're correct, Mrs. Allen. And there comes a time when, it's a matter of time, when you will run into opposition and you will come into conflict with the pastor. Because the pastor will be like, okay, do you think you're the only one who has this gift or has this calling? I will get somebody else who will compete with you. You might even find yourself in a situation where you're now competing with the pastor because the pastor is there saying, why should you have this gift and I don't have it? And people are coming to that church because of you and your gift. And the pastor might become threatened. And you might become egotistic. Oh, if not for me and my gift, people would not come to this church. And the conflict starts. So that is why when people come to me and say, can I answer my call in the church? I would say to them, no. Because suppose you want to answer your call in the church and your spirit guides say to you, make an offering. What happens if your pastor opposes you making that offering? What is going to happen? What if you see that the person is going to have a cardiovascular event and that they need to change their diet? And you're so good at reading energy that you can see the effects of what they're eating. You might even be so good that you can see that the person is eating what is taboo to them, taboo to their lineage. And I have video classes on taboo things, taboo foods, in case you want more information on that on my YouTube channel. Are you eating things that are taboo to you? What are the consequences of eating taboo things and indulging in things that are taboo to you and taboo to your lineage? So maybe now you can see that this person is doing something that's taboo to their lineage, or eating something that's taboo to their lineage, drinking something that is taboo to their lineage, interacting with people who are taboo to their lineage. And the pastor says, no, don't worry about it. We will cast it out. It's a demon. What will you do? Are you going to contradict your pastor? Because if you contradict your pastor will now say you are not being submissive to his or her authority. And then that becomes a problem. So what will you do? What will you do if your pastor in your church or your imam or your priest starts saying, yes, I know you have a calling, but this is the only way you can express your calling. In this way that I'm telling you, this is the only way you can express that calling. What are you going to do? If that religious leader, your mufti, is using you as an attraction for their organization so that because you're there and you're displaying and using these spiritual gifts, and people are coming and they're contributing money and all that thing, and they're not giving you anything out of these contributions, would you be okay with that? And some people say, oh yeah, I'm working in the vineyard of the Lord until suffering and pain comes. And there's so many of you who are here now and who are going to watch this replay later on YouTube who have experienced that. You invested so much in your church or your mosque or whatever religious organization. You put in so much money and time, and you served, and you were there almost every day, and you were the one reaching out and giving but when it was time for you to be helped, nobody came. Nobody. You spent all this time using your spiritual gifts in that mosque, in that church, in that temple, in that synagogue. You were using, giving, 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 giving. But when it came time to help you, it was like, trust in the Lord. Mashallah. What will you do? Then conflict starts. And then you will discover that you did not answer your call properly. You're right, Peter. Abandoned in your time of need. There's so many people who leave church, who leave religion, who leave the mosque, who leave different organizations because they were abandoned in their time of need. And I find this mostly in Christianity, maybe not so much in Islam. At the risk of sounding a little biased, I find like most Muslims are more care oriented than Christians. Christians are more about performance. You need to hear our voices. We're out there, we're evangelizing, and we're getting numbers. We want to get so many people to join us and be part of that. But but I tend to find Muslims higher when it comes to service and helping people in need. That is my personal experience. So that's why I tend to use the Christians more as an example compared to Muslims. A Christian will judge you and condition the kind of help they give you because you're not a Christian. Most Muslims will help you without even asking what religion you are. Most Muslims I know, I could go, like, I could stand up from here and go to a mosque as long as people are there and say to them, I am hungry. I am more likely to get something to eat at a mosque than a church. Because I find that most mosques, most Muslims are closer to the community and to people's needs compared to Christians. Christians are more about performance. Okay, we're closed now. Do you attend this church? That's my experience. And Elisa says that's true. That's my experience. There are some religious leaders who will not talk to you, who will not deal with you, who will not counsel you unless you are on their list of tithers at the church. It's not that way in mosques that I know of. And in the mosques, that's the reason why everybody sits on the floor unless they have a medical condition that prevents them from sitting on the floor and they have to sit on a chair. But when you go to the mosque, you will see the wealthy on the floor, the poor on the floor, everybody sitting on the floor. In the church, we fight for position. Who is in front, who's in the back. What we worry about our church outfits. Am I color coordinated? Christians, we shop for church. We go and buy church outfits to be seen in church. Okay. So in Christianity, we're more about performance. But in Islam, we're more about connection. That's my experience. So I think a person has a better chance. Actually, not. I take that back because even if you go to a mosque and you say, okay, I want to use my spiritual gifts, you will still have to be guided by the Quran and the Hadiths. So there are restrictions there. Okay. All right. So, what questions do we have about this obstacle, the obstacle of conflicts? If you have not gotten anything, get this. If you are experiencing unexplained conflicts, strange conflicts, you need to understand that a message is being delivered. A message is being delivered. And you need to understand what that message is so that you will know the right thing to do. Don't be so focused on who is at fault for the conflict. If that conflict is coming out of nowhere, it wasn't like this is a condition that has been ongoing for a while. It just came out of nowhere and the conflict just started. You need to be able to stop and say, is there a message that is being delivered to me right now that I'm not understanding, that I'm not getting? Before I start blaming my mother-in-law, father-in-law, before I start blaming my boss or my supervisor, before I start blaming my neighbor or my village people, is there something in this conflict that is being communicated to me? Mhm. Is there something my spirit guides are trying to tell me? Are there some messages I have been ignoring? Are there some dreams I have been ignoring? Especially if you've been getting repeated dreams. You're dreaming of the same thing over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And in these dreams, you're having conflict, you're fighting in these dreams. You can't wake up and say, I cast and bind, I cast and bind, I cast and bind. I'm casting and binding. Shabuku la 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 tapala. Ashakabele. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And you don't know the meaning of it. You need to be able to reason and think beyond your Bible, beyond your Quran, beyond your whatever it is your book is. You need to be able to start. Okay, Is there something I'm going through or experiencing that is not explained in this Bible? Because remember, the Bible is an account of the Israelite people, the Hebrew people, the Jews. And if that is not your heritage, you need to be asking yourself, what within my own culture, my own heritage can explain this thing? Because you have things within your culture, your tradition, your heritage that can explain what you're going through. That is why when people book a dream interpretation service with me, you will see there on the form, it says, what is your culture? What is your background? Because if I dream of a dog, let me pick someone from a different culture. Let's pick, who do we pick now? Let's pick Nikki Adele. If I dream of a dog, the meaning of that dog is not the same for Nikki Adele when she dreams of a dog. Good afternoon, Stargazer Mommy. Oji Ugo. Thank you. Thank you for the gift, Stargazer Mommy. If Mrs. Allen dreams of a dog, it means something different from when I dream of a dog. So that's why when I do the dream interpretation, I ask, what is your culture? Thank you, Ajugo. Thank you for liking the live. So you can't just be going on Google and saying, I dreamt of a dog. What is the meaning of the dog? Thank you, Tina is a lover girl. Thank you so much. Thank you for the gift. You can't be there just, what is the meaning of a dog? Google doesn't know your culture. And so if you go there and you're like, I dreamt of a dog last night, what's the meaning of dog? Google is going to pull up, whatever is out there, people say is the meaning of dreaming of dogs. Thank you for the gifts. Your culture, your heritage, your lineage is important because that also is the context within which you answer your spiritual call. That is the reason why when people come to me and say, oh, but can I answer my spiritual call in the church? I say, no, the church is not your culture. The church is not your heritage. It's not your lineage. It is not for majority of the people, that church has nothing to do with your ancestors. If your ancestors are trying to reach you, if your ancestors are saying, look, you were the one who was selected, okay? If you were the one selected from our lineage to express these spiritual gifts, they're telling you directly. They didn't tell you through the church. You say to that or jugal, blessed be my ancestors. And people don't think about that. How many times has your pastor in your church come to you and said, your ancestors gave me a message for you? They will tell you the Spirit, or they will tell you Jesus did, or this other person. How many times will they come and say to you, your ancestors gave me a message for you? They won't, because there's no profit. They can't make money from that. It's too much work. If they have 20 people in the church, imagine having to tell the 20 people, I'm hearing from 40 ancestors, two for each person. That's a lot of work. It's a lot easier to say, oh, the Bible says one solution fits all. And that's why spiritual practice can be challenging, because each person you're dealing with is individualized. There isn't a general solution for everybody. So when you are called to spiritual practice, you're being called to serve individuals, not just the community, but individuals. Somebody will come to you and say, here is my challenge. And you will have to give them a customized solution to that challenge. You feel me? Y'all picking up what we drop in here? Now, there are some spiritual practitioners that are called to be the practitioners for the community. And so they will do rituals and offerings and prayers and invocations and whatnot for the community, but they will also do for the individual. There's always individual work. When you're called to spiritual practice, you will be called to embody your spirituality. It's no longer performance based. It's not just about, I'm a spiritual practitioner. No, you will have to embody that thing you say you are. And your spirit guides will send you so many people so that you will gain experience very quickly. You will meet a lot of people. You will gain a lot of experience. You will meet a lot of challenges. You will fail. There are some people who will come to you and you will not be able to help them. And through that, you will learn resilience and you will learn humility and you will learn understanding. You cannot save the world. That's not what you're called here to do. There are some people you can help, and there are some people you cannot help. There are some people who you're meant to help, and there are some people that you are not meant to help. Someone else is meant to help them. And you, as a practitioner, you have to know the difference. You don't want to be like a pastor or bishop or man of God, woman of God who takes all comers. And if they're unable to solve the person's problem, they will now blame the person. You don't have enough faith. But they won't admit that they couldn't solve the problem. And they'll say you don't have enough faith. It's because you didn't have enough faith. That's why the problem couldn't be solved. No. Even when you read your New Testament, you can see it wasn't everybody that Jesus healed. Jesus didn't touch everybody. There were some people he left alone. There were some folks he said, "Get away from me." He tried his best. And I'm talking about the historical Jesus. I'm not talking about the Jesus egregore. Because right now, a whole bunch of us are working with Jesus egregores, plural. And again, I do have video classes on the Jesus egregores. If you're interested in that, it's on my YouTube channel. A whole bunch of people think they're working with Jesus. They don't know they're working with Jesus egregore. Thank you for the gift, Sister Effie. Okay. Being a spiritual practitioner doesn't mean that you are the savior of the world and that you are going to be solving everybody's problems. That's not what it means. That's not what you're called to do. That is why when I'm teaching, I say there are people who will, other teachers, practitioners who will listen to all these classes I'm putting out, and they will rephrase it and put out the same material, but they can reach other people who don't understand me, and that's okay. Because there's some people who don't understand me, can't understand me, or won't understand me. There are some people who will not listen to me because I'm female. They come from very strong patriarchal backgrounds, and the indoctrination and the programming is so deep that as soon as they see me, they automatically have a block. They will not listen. They don't listen to women. Okay. And this includes both men and women. There are lots of women who will never listen to one. There are lots of women who will never, ever listen to or believe other women. The only people they will listen to is men. There are lots of men who will never listen to a woman. So let's say, for instance, there's a male who consumes my material and puts it out to these people, they will still get the information. And that's not my issue. My issue is to put out the information so that people cannot say I was not informed. Yes, you were informed. You didn't listen to me, but you listened to somebody who listened to me. So you were informed. You cannot say you were not informed. Oh, I didn't know I was called to spiritual practice. Yeah, you refused to listen to me say it, but you listened to Peter when Peter was saying it. Peter, I'm going to use it as an example. So Peter said it. Peter listened to me and he took the message I delivered and he put it out to you. So you've heard it. You can't say you didn't hear it. So if you're suffering the consequences of disobedience, it is deserved because you wouldn't listen to me, but you listened to Peter. Peter said exactly what I said. So as a spiritual practitioner, you don't concern yourself so much about the end results because the end results will take care of themselves. All you have been called to do is to obey, accept the call. Every other thing will fall into place. You will not understand how it falls into place. Your job is not to worry about how it falls into place, but it will fall into place. In our class today, our spiritual reset retreats, today was day one. We talked about how we discern spirit. And I've said this in other classes too. But in class today, during the spiritual reset retreat, we talked about it. Spirit speaks in sensations and not in sentences. When you answer your call and you have answered that call properly, you will know. You wouldn't need Dr. Tochi to tell you that you've answered your call. You will know. If you have truly answered that call, you will know. If you have truly answered that call, you've properly answered the call within what is allowable, what's available, you will see, not you may, you will see with your own eyes the changes in your life. You will know. You wake up in the morning and you'll know. You wake up in the morning and it'll be like, oh, it's done. You wake up in the morning and you will know, you will feel the energy shift. You will feel different. But if you are approaching spiritual practice as a performative art, oh, I want to do this so that everybody will know that I'm initiated. I am now a Niya. I am now a Baba. I am now a this. I'm a now a that. Nothing will change for you. Instead, things will get worse and you will have more conflicts. You will have people disliking you for no damn reason. That's why I no longer worry about people who say, "Oh, I was called to spiritual practice," and they were not. They call themselves, they're just like pastors in the church who say, "Oh, I was called to ministry," and in reality, they call themselves. Nobody called them. They call themselves because they saw it as a great money making opportunity. I don't worry about it now. Time will show us whether you will call to spiritual practice or not. So time. Another concern people have with spiritual practice is if I accept this call to spiritual practice, will my financial situation improve? I'm having financial problems now. I'm having financial issues now. I'm having financial challenges now. If I accept this call, will it improve? The answer is yes. But you have to answer the call. And sometimes people think that answering the call is like saying, "Oh, okay, let me watch Dr. Tochi's videos and I'll try some spells. I'll go watch these other people on YouTube and TikTok and do their spells, and I'm gonna build my altar." That's not answering the spiritual call. There's a lot more to it than that. Okay? Answering the call is not acting. Answering the call is, what would you, how would you have me go about this? I'm now agreeing to do what I said I was going to do before I showed up here. And I don't care what public opinion is, and if people laugh at me, make fun of me, mock me, tell me that this is not what I'm supposed, that's not my concern. I'm here to please my creator. I am here to be obedient to what I came here to do. I am here to align myself with my spiritual crew. When I make things easier for them, they will make things easier for me. So, yeah, you could be an accountant and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a homemaker and a spiritual practitioner. You could be a shop owner and a spiritual practitioner. You could be a CEO and a spiritual practitioner. You could be a banker and a spiritual practitioner. You could be a footballer and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a student and a spiritual practitioner. You could be a caregiver and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a bus conductor, a bus driver, and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a hairstylist and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a civil servant and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be an IT specialist. You could be a coder and be a spiritual practitioner. Yes, Mrs. Allen, you could be a gym instructor and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a grandmother and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a grandfather and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a landscaper and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a farmer and be a spiritual practitioner. You're welcome, Empress. You could be a babysitter and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be an intimacy worker and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be an intimacy worker and be a spiritual practitioner. You could be a servant, a maid in a house, a butler, a driver, chauffeur, and be a spiritual practitioner. There are some royal families, royal homes, where the servants in that house are spiritual practitioners. And that royal family deliberately employed that person, even though they're a servant, even though they're a helper. The reason why they have that particular job in close proximity to that royal family is because they are spiritual practitioners and they come from a lineage of spiritual practitioners. They know exactly what they're doing. There are some people, some families that will not hire you after they get a divination done on you. Some of them will not hire you because you are a spiritual practitioner or you've been called to spiritual practice. And some will hire you because they have seen by divination that you have been called to spiritual practice. You can be a teacher, elementary school teacher, a nursery, kindergarten teacher, and be a spiritual practitioner. And that's a very powerful position to be in because you can start forming and molding the minds of the babies and the children in the right direction. If I were to open a nursery or kindergarten school today, I would hire people who have been called to spiritual practice and who have answered the call because I want to make sure that those children have the best foundation to start off life. I would do a divination. If you were not called to spiritual practice, I wouldn't hire you. And I'll put it there. I'll let you know up front because I want those children to be empowered children. So you can be anything and be a spiritual practitioner. Don't sit there and say, oh, is being a spiritual practitioner meaning I'm going to have to give up this other thing? You don't necessarily have to. Because the world we're living in now is a lot different from the world we were living in before. Before, people used to make their total 100% living from being a spiritual practitioner. But we live in a world now where oftentimes, unless you are like the top 1%, you have to do something else to make a living. There are some spiritual practitioners that charge $1,500 an hour, and they can afford to be 100% spiritual practitioner and not do anything else and just, yeah, because they charge $1,500 an hour. Dr. Shoes, how can we buy your products? I have shut down my store, but you can go on my website and do a search. Use the magnifying glass and do a search and see if you can what you can find. But I've basically shut down the store. It just takes too much of my time. But I think I still have stuff there. Just use the magnifying glass. Okay. You can be anything. and be a spiritual practitioner. It's not mutually exclusive. You will find out sometimes that you might have a peaceful relationship. Greetings to you, I am light. You might find out that ambidextrous. I'm ambidextrous. You might find out, let's say, for instance, you are in a relationship, you are in a marriage, and this happens sometimes. And the time has come for you to answer that spiritual call. And you answer that call, and all hell breaks loose in your marriage or your relationship. And then you're faced with a challenge. Do I stay or do I go? That's why I say to people, before you get married, get a divination done. But I also understand that many people get married before they know about their own spirituality or develop their spiritual path. I understand that. And so you answer your spiritual call, and then conflict starts. And then you have to decide, do I give up my spiritual call in order to maintain my relationship or maintain my marriage? Or do I continue with my spiritual call and watch my marriage fall apart or watch my relationship fall apart? Each person's situation is different. Either way, go get a divination to find out how to proceed. Your partner may choose to grow with you, or your partner might say, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. Especially if you married a partner and did not marry a companion. There are so many of us out in these streets who married partners. We did not marry our companions. Big difference. And I have a video class on the difference between companions and partners. So it's on my YouTube channel. What's the difference between having a partner and having a companion? Partners or transactional, companions or not. It is important. This is my experience. It is important that if you have been called to spiritual practice, that you have a supportive companion. Somebody who accepts that you are a spiritual practitioner or that you are going to be a spiritual practitioner. You do not want to be yoked with somebody who will envy you and envy your spiritual gifts. You do not want to be living with somebody who envies you and your spiritual gifts. Must be a very big fire going on. There's a third truck going over there. Okay. You it, and I'm going to say this. I know it might sound a little bit. There are some spiritual practitioners who will do best by not being married. And I know some people, it will pain them to hear that because, we live in a world where we have been socialized. Oh, get married, get married, get married, get married. And we have tax laws, finance laws, and policies that favor married people. I understand that. But there are some people whose spiritual practice will thrive if they do not marry. Now, I did not say that they cannot be intimate with anyone. They can be intimate, but they are so powerful that it would take a truly submissive and supportive person to be with them. So let's say, for instance, you are one of those kinds of spiritual practitioners and you're female, and you find a partner who will agree. And I don't care if it's a male partner or female partner. My job is not here to be the morality police. Let's say you are a female spiritual practitioner. Can you find a companion who will submit to your calling, who will not be challenged to it by it, who will not be attention seeking? If you are a man, can you find a woman or man, depending on how you swing, who will accept that you are the spiritual practitioner? You came here with work to do, and their efforts need to support your effort. So you might find out that it's easier for you to be single. And that's why you have some powerful spiritual practitioners who are widows, widowers, divorced, single, from a practical point of view. Do not look at yourself. If you find yourself in that situation, please do not look at yourself as a failure. You are not a failure. You are not a failure. Okay? You're not a failure. And yes, you see people around you, social media showing loving couples and all that kind of thing. You need to understand that you are different and you need to accept your uniqueness and that you're different. The fact that people are eating fast food every day and they have a high metabolic rate and their body burns up all the calories doesn't mean that you can do the same thing. The same way you have access to the fast food place for burgers and fried chicken and all that kind of thing is the same way that they have access. Everybody has access to the fast food place. But you will notice that some people can go and eat fast food every day and they will not gain weight. And some other people just have to look at the fried chicken and they gain weight. That's all they have to do. So you can't, because some other person is eating fast food all the time and they're skinny, and you say to yourself, well, I should be able to eat fast food all the time and not gain weight. No, you are different. Your life is different. You are expressing differently. There is nothing wrong with you. And it doesn't matter what people say, nothing is wrong with you. In the retreat today, I was sharing the story of when I was younger, about 40 years ago, when I was dating 40 years ago. And some men would say to me, you are too tall. I don't like it. You're too tall. And I would ask, what do you mean by too tall? And they're saying, look at you. You're not such a nice person, but you're taller than me. You're too tall. And I would say to them, what would you like to do about that? If you have the power, what would you like to do? And I remember one said, I would cut you at the knees. He said, I would cut you at the knees. Then you would be perfect. That was the last time I ever spoke to the motherfucker. I am not going to diminish myself to make you comfortable. I showed up tall. I am tall. I have embodied my height. I will not hunch over, slouch, bend over to make you comfortable. I showed up tall. And that's the attitude some of us need to have when it comes to our spiritual practice. I'm a spiritual practitioner. And I want to say this because some of you need to hear it. Okay. Even now, as I'm teaching this class, I still have people who make fun of me for being a spiritual practitioner. I have family members, people related to me, who make fun of me for being a spiritual practitioner. So you are looking at me right now and you're saying, I love this woman or I hate her. Whatever your feelings are towards Dr. Tochi. I read some of the comments. Oh, you changed my life. You helped me. I saw you in my dreams and so on and so on and so forth. I have family members who make fun of me, and they've been making fun of me since my childhood for being spiritual and mocked me for it and laughed at me for it and say, who, you? We know how you started. We know your origin. We know your life. We know everything that's going on. You need to be ready for that because people will say, "I used to know you way back when. I used to know you when you used to." I knew you when you were nothing, when you had nothing, when you were nobody, when you used to beg for this and beg for food. I mean, you will have all that. And I want to tell you, it has nothing to do with what you came here to do. It's them. It's them. It's them. My mother mocks me because I read tarot cards for others. Yeah, that's her problem, is not yours. That's her problem, it's not yours. And I had to get to the point where if I have an associate, a friend, or a relative, somebody trying to run up on me, say, "You're a spiritual practitioner." I say, "Yes, I am." And I'll look them in the eye. Yes, I am. You have a problem with that? I can cut you off right now. You don't I don't need to talk. You don't We don't need to talk to each other. I can cut you off right now and you will find the person will back off. Because what they're expecting you to do is to start explaining yourself and over explaining yourself. Classic case of refusing to cast your precious pearls before swines. They will never get it anyways. No, they won't. What they want you is to start explaining yourself and over explaining yourself. I do not have to explain my destiny to you. I don't. I don't. I don't. I don't. How much money will you put in my bank account if I explain to you? Okay, you're you're not gonna put any money in my bank account, so we're not having that conversation. If you find that you are having to explain your life destiny, especially your spiritual call, to justify it to people, you have not embodied it. You have not answered the call. You have not truly answered the call. Because when you truly answer the call, you will not care. And it's not forcing yourself not to care, forcing yourself to be indifferent. Remember what I said earlier? If you accept the call, you will feel yourself change, you will feel your energy change. It will no longer matter. Imagine somebody coming to me now to complain to me about my height. We were discussing it in the retreat this morning, and I said to them, back in the day, I might get triggered and get into this fight with the person, an argument or whatnot. But imagine coming to me and complaining to me about my height. You're irrelevant. Your opinion of my height is irrelevant. Matter of fact, if you came up to me and started complaining about my height, I will start backing away from you like you have rabies. And if you say, "Why are you backing away from me?" I will tell you, "I think you have rabies, and I don't want you to bite me and infect me." I will start backing away. Am I aware that people have a problem with my height? Yes, I do. Remember a couple of weeks ago when I told you the story of the man who snatched my phone and I snatched his head? So he gave me back my phone and I gave him back his head. He was a short guy. And he was doing this in a parking lot full of men in order to metaphorically cut me down to size. So as he tried to metaphorically cut me down to size, I metaphorically emasculated him and castrated him in front of his fellow men. His head was right here. And I said, don't let the doctor fool you. Don't let the wig fool you. I'm a street urchin. I fight in the streets. Yes, Sister Aphrodite, did you hear what I just said? He gave me back my phone and I gave him back his head. So don't let the makeup fool you or the wig. And he's like, you know, I can snatch off your wig. I said, sir, you don't even have to snatch off my wig. I will snatch it off myself, strip myself naked, and beat you up right here in the parking lot in front of everybody. And that was the last he talked to me. You cannot shame somebody who has no shame. You cannot shame a mad person. Imagine going on the street and you're seeing a mad person. They're walking along and talking to themselves and they're dragging their push cart and like someone is saying, and you're like, let me go there and embarrass that mad person. You cannot embarrass a mad person. So I am aware that there are people, especially men, who have fixations around tall women, but that's not my problem. That's not my problem. It's not my concern. So the same thing for my spiritual practice. If we're having a conversation and I say to you, hey, I'm a spiritual practitioner, and you get discombobulated, that's your problem. Because I know who feeds me. I know what feeds me. I know who takes care of me. I know what takes care of me. So you're not important. You're not important. Because if I have to choose between you making you, getting your approval and getting the approval of my spirit guides who take care of me, provide for me, help me, support me, guide me, protect me, heal me, you have no chance. You have no chance. Okay. Any questions about today's topic? The seventh obstacle, the conflicts that arise in your life when you do not answer your spiritual call. Any questions about the conflicts that arise in your life when you answer your spiritual call? Okay, looks like everybody is fully trained, fully educated. Next Sunday, we'll deal with the last topic. Okay, Mrs. Allen. Next week, we'll deal with the last topic in this series, which is the signs and symbols that you will often see or experience when you have been called to spiritual practice. And remember, there are so many people now who have been called to spiritual practice. And spiritual practice is so wide. There's so many, those of you who got my book, Create Your Own Spirituality Based Business. If you got the updated version of that ebook, it's available on my Patreon. Okay. Over there, I have more than 200 spirituality based businesses that you can do. More than 200. So that should tell you there are so many ways that you can express your spiritual practice. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie says we are satisfied with your teaching. You're satisfied. Okay, so Stephanie, you will teach next Sunday's class, okay, Stephanie? Since you're satisfied. So hey y'all, Stephanie will be teaching class next Sunday. So we're gonna put Stephanie up. She's gonna teach next Sunday's class. Oh my God. So if I can put together more than 200 spirituality based businesses, that should let you know there are over 200 ways you can be a spiritual practitioner. Mhm. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Allen. Stephanie says, no, Dr. Tochi, please. No, no, Stephanie, we're going to have you come up and teach class next Sunday. For those of you on TikTok, we're having a little bit of fun here in the comment section on YouTube. You're welcome, Empress. So your first line of action is go get that divination and find out, have I been called to spiritual practice? Is this the reason why I'm having these problems? And if that divination says no, you have not been called to spiritual practice, the divination should tell you, okay, why are the other reasons? What are the other reasons why you're experiencing what you're experiencing? Okay, because there can be. Okay, Des says, first time, how can I become a spiritual practitioner? Are you calling yourself or you were called to it? So Des on TikTok says, how can I become a spiritual practitioner? Are you calling yourself or you were called to it? Okay. So the person who told you that you were called to it should map out for you the process. What kind of spiritual practice you were called to? Because if you're saying to me, how can I become a spiritual practitioner? And I was called to it, whoever told you that you were called to spiritual practice should have told you what kind of spiritual practitioner and what steps to take. Thank you, Sister Effie. Sister Effie says, get a divination to find out. Mrs. Allen says, get a divination. Yeah. So if you're saying you were called to it, then you should know how to go about it. Another question that comes up, people will say to me, "Can I initiate myself?" The answer is no. The same way that you cannot baptize yourself is the same way that you cannot initiate yourself. Thank you, Scorpio Intuitive. The same way that you cannot baptize yourself is the same way you cannot initiate yourself. That's the easiest example I can give. Some people will say, I got initiated in my dream. Okay. Who did the initiation in the dream? Thank you for sharing, Des. Appreciate you. And if you were initiated in your dream, what happened when you woke up? Did you start practicing once you woke up? Because people will say to me, "Oh, yeah, I went to a dream and I got initiated into this, and that." Okay. When you woke up, what happened? When you woke up, what changed? The proof is always in the embodiment. The proof is always in the embodiment. The proof is always in the embodiment. We can talk about spiritual knowledge, spiritual theory, spiritual conspiracy theories. We can talk about that all day long. But at the end of the day, what is embodied? Can you solve problems? Can you solve problems? Because the spiritual practitioner is a problem solver, not just doing what I'm doing now, talking and talking. Now I've been talking for what, 2.5 hours. Anybody can talk for 2.5 hours. I've been talking for 2.5 hours. Anybody can do this. But can you solve problems? Can you solve problems? That's the, anybody can come up here and say, okay, take the 3 leaves of bay leaves and put it together with well, take some salt and sprinkle it on some bay leaves and do this and do this and do this and do that. You yourself that is out here telling people what to do. If that person came to you, can you solve that problem? That is the test. That is the proof. Can you solve the problem? Or are you going to send the person, or are you going to say, well, hold on? Because there's a whole bunch of people teaching stuff now, and they're teaching with the help of Chat GPT. And I love Chat GPT. It's a great organizing tool. It's a great research tool. But if a person comes to you and says, I woke up this morning and so thing is going on with me, can you solve that problem? Every night I'm dreaming of fighting. Yeah, you can go to ChatGPT and put it in there. What does it mean every night? This person is dreaming of fighting. And ChatGPT will say, okay, fighting means this. Fighting with the inner person, outer person, and the person needs to do this and is trying to reconcile the shadow self with the real self. And okay. How do you solve that problem so that the person stops dreaming of fighting every night? That is where, that is where the true mastery shows itself. So many people can tell you what your problem is, but not so many people can tell you what the solution is. So many people can interpret your problem, but not so many people can tell you what the solution to that problem is. Okay. So, any questions about today's topic? Conflict in your life as a result of not answering your spiritual call? Some of this. Thank you for the share, Des. If you've been called to spiritual practice, please see it as an honor. You're welcome, Elder Light. See it as an honor. It's not a burden, it's an honor. It will require you to stretch yourself. It will require you to do things that you haven't done before. It will put you before so many people. It will hold you up before so many people. People are going to see you and start acting out their trauma. And your spiritual practice will force you to deal with your own trauma. There was a time years ago, Christmas used to be the Christmas period when I used to, actively celebrate Christmas. Now I just put up a Christmas tree because it's so pretty. Um, but there used to be a time during this holiday season I used to be so sad and depressed because I would spend so much money buying gifts for people and I wouldn't get anything back. I would spend so much time and money on the phone calling people. Wait a minute. The fire truck blared this way, and now the fire truck is blaring in the other way. Okay. I used to spend so much money calling people long distance, buying presents, delivering the presents, paying for postage. I used to spend a lot of money. Harmony, how can I purchase a book? It's on my Patreon. Go to my Patreon. The book is on my Patreon. I used to spend a lot of money. Easter, I'm buying gifts. Christmas, I'm buying gifts. Birthdays, I'm buying gifts. Anniversaries, I'm buying gifts. People will invite me to their weddings, I'll buy gifts. I would buy, and I will go out of my way to buy good gifts. Like I'm not buying cheap stuff. I buy good stuff. And I remember one Christmas I was ill. I was home alone. My children were away in school. And it was my husband. He wasn't at home around at that time. I think he had traveled too. I was by myself. And I remember saying to myself, so if my husband and my children did not call me, there's no one else who's going to call me over this holiday period. No one else is going to send me anything. And I remember being so grieved by it. I had a lot of grief around that. Okay? I had a lot of grief around that because I couldn't understand why I was doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do. But after I answered my spiritual call, the desire to do all that faded away. The desire to be buying and making other people happy, it faded away. It just faded away. I didn't do anything special. It just faded away. You know, I think it's just like when someone is on a GLP-1. I hear that that's how that works. If you're on a GLP-1, it suppresses your appetite and it changes your taste buds. You have no desire to eat. And even when you eat, the food tastes funny. So you just stop eating, you know. So answering the spiritual call did that for me. And a few years ago, I was working somewhere and some of the people there were beastly towards me. Okay. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy gifts for some of the people who were nice to me. And I remember going into was it Sam's Club, one of those places. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy a few things. And I ended up buying about $400 worth of stuff. But let me tell you what the difference was. When I was buying those things, I already knew that I was going to return them. So I just wanted that sensation of, yay, I'm buying all these pretty stuff and great stuff and what stuff. So I bought about $400 worth of gifts. So I went home with them and looked at them. Oh, how nice, how pretty, and got this and that and whatnot. And the next day, I put everything back in my vehicle and drove back to that Sam's Club and returned them. And the young lady I went to and I said, I want to make these returns. And she said, wow. She was looking a little upset, and she's like, Why would you return these? You just bought them yesterday." I said, "Yes, because the people I bought them for do not deserve them." So I have satisfied the giving part of me by buying it, but I'm going to obey the spiritual part of myself by not giving it to them. And I returned everything. And yeah, the return process wasn't smooth. It wasn't easy, but I stood there and made sure that I returned all of that. And then I ended up buying like probably $30 worth of stuff. Like, you know how you go to the dollar store and you buy body washes and things like that. So that's what I did and handed it out to them. And I didn't care whether they gave me anything or not. I just gave it to them, to the nice kids. And sometimes I can be petty. So I made sure that when I was giving the gifts to the nice kids, the ones who were nice and polite to me, they saw it, that they were getting nothing from me. I made sure they saw me because I can be petty like that. And one of them got very, very angry that he shoved me. He looked for an opportunity to shove me and lay his hands on me because I didn't give him anything. Oh, and shortly after that, 2 weeks after, they let him go. Okay. I don't reward bad behavior. Okay. I'm not that kind of person who says, I know you were impolite to me. I know you were beastly towards me. I know you weren't nice to me. But because I'm a good Christian, I'm going to buy something for you. And I hope that God will touch your heart. No, 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 no. I don't do that. That is self deception. I don't reward bad behavior. That is self deception. Oh, I'm going to buy them a gift. God is going to touch their hearts. When they see how nice I've been to them, they're going to be nice. No, it doesn't work. If that works, we would not have the kind of politicians we have. We would not have the kind of bosses and companies and corporations we have today if people reciprocated kindness the way we expect them to. So that is self-deception. And I learned that. That's self-deception. You either give somebody something because you want to, or you do not give it to them at all. And if you're not nice to me, if you're not polite to me, if you're beastly towards me, I will not give you anything. I remember one of the kids running up to me and saying, Can you give me advice? You're a wise woman. You know a lot of things. And I said to him, I am sorry, I have no advice to give you. Because I know he had Googled me and looked me up and all that. No. And he told me his life issues, and I said, No, I have nothing to tell you. And he got upset. I will, I'm not giving you my time. I'm not giving you my counsel. I'm not giving you my advice. I'm not giving you my skills. I'm not giving you any money. I'm not giving you any gifts. I am not giving. I will not do it. I don't reward bad behavior. So we're very clear about that. And my children also, growing up, that was very clear. They knew mommy did not reward bad behavior. That's it. And so we will have discipline in the house. Okay. Because sometimes we think that, oh, if I reward this bad behavior, the person's heart will change. No, it will not change. It hardens their heart. The person feels justified. So I used to do all those things. And I used to spend a lot of money buying gifts and carrying gifts and being disappointed when people did not reciprocate. I don't do that anymore because that's not what I'm required to do. And I've also learned that you can give in a variety of ways. You don't have to be spending money you don't have or inconveniencing yourself. You can give in other ways. My presence to you is a gift. If I'm sitting with you, spending time with you, that is a gift. And the reason why I say it's a gift is because there are lots of lonely people out there who have no one to call them, be with them, sit with them, reach out to them, talk to them. So if I take my time to call you or be with you or visit with you and things of that nature, it's a gift. If you ask me a question and I give you my considered opinion, it's a gift. Now, if you pay me, obviously it's not a gift. But if you're not paying me and you're asking me for counsel, that's a gift. And it's a gift because I value myself. So I want you to get to that point where you value yourself, value your presence, and value what you offer. If I sit with you, even if I sit in silence, but I came to sit with you, that is a gift. And if you turn around and say, I gave you nothing, or I get to hear through the grapevine that you say, oh, all she did was come and sit, I will not come and sit with you again. I will not visit you again. We're not going to argue about it. I will not sit with you again. I will not visit you again. Because I could be doing something else, but I spent time to come and sit with you and keep you company or talk to you on the phone. So if you're going through some emotional or psychological challenges this holiday period and you're feeling very unappreciated, I invite you to examine your situation through this lens. Am I the gift or do I have to give some other gift? There are some times I might go out to a public place like a restaurant and I have a conversation with somebody, and the way that spirit arranges it is that I'm sitting at this restaurant, I'm minding my own business. Someone engages me in conversation and they end up getting spiritual counsel from me. That's a gift from me to them. And it happens to me quite a bit. There was a time I was in Abuja having a late lunch with a friend I had made in Abuja. And there was this couple, young couple, sitting at the next table. And, the young man turned to me and said, "Ma'am, do you mind? My girlfriend has a question for you." And I turned to my friend and I said, "Oh my God, I thought I could be anonymous here." And she said to me, "Well, maybe they know you. Maybe they've seen you on YouTube or TikTok or somewhere." And I said, "Okay, what question do you have?" And she said to me, "Should I give my first paycheck to my pastor or to my father?" I've started a new job. Should my first paycheck go to my pastor, the pastor of my church, or to my father? And I said to her, "Do you know me?" She goes, "No." I said, "Have you seen me anywhere?" She goes, "No." I said, "Why did you choose to ask me this question?" She said, "My boyfriend and I were looking at you, and you looked like the sort of person who could answer this kind of question." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I said, "Okay, that's fine. I do this for a living." I said, "Who paid your school fees? Who paid your tuition?" She said, "My father." "Who fed you all the years you were in college?" She said, "My father and my mother." "Who maintained you, made sure you had clothes and shoes?" She said, "My father." I said, how did the pastor contribute to your education?" And she got quiet. And she goes, "Well, the pastor, when we go to church, the pastor always has these fire prayers. The pastor's always prophesying over us in the congregation." I said, "Okay, I don't think you understand my question. Does the pastor know you by name?" And she says, "No, no, no, no. He's our Father in the Lord." I said, if the pastor were to see you right here in this restaurant, will the pastor recognize you and call you by name?" She said, "No." So I said to her, "Who should you give that first paycheck to?" And she said, "My father." And the boyfriend said, "That's what I kept telling her. But she kept telling me that the pastor told them, you need to sow your first seed in the church so that God will multiply and prosper you in all you do, that all first seeds need to be sown in the church." And I said to them, "My work here is done." Divine Suki say, which is a lie. The money will go in the pastor's pocket. Well, we already know this, but we're talking about a young girl. I think she was probably like what, 21, 22, 23. Just finished college, excited that she's got her first job. But that's the life of a spiritual practitioner. People will come to you. and they will have questions for you. And you will respond based on guidance. Now, I do have people who come up to me and they demand, tell me this and tell me that. I'm not obligated to respond. I'm not obligated to respond. There are people who run up on me. Maybe they know who I am, maybe they don't, and they come demanding. And when they come, I say, no English speak small English speakers as schöne Bombardlia, and they're like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, it assures. Next at 10 as Englishy." And the person goes away, and I have my peace of mind. Flag it, not the Spanish or the Creole comes in. Mhm, mhm. I'm not speaking something they can interpret because I don't want them to respond. If I'm speaking in any of the other languages I speak, I don't want the possibility that they also speak that language. So we give them gibberish because I don't want to be bothered. I want some peace and quiet. Okay. Advanced members, remember that second Sunday we're having advanced member class. Make sure that you have your human design charts done up available for that class. Next Saturday, we'll have our communion with the elementals with all members. It'll be live on Google Meet, and then the class after that will be on YouTube and Patreon. We'll do a demo how to end your day, how to end your day with ritual. That will be for all members. And then the second Sunday, we'll have the advanced member class. We're going to be talking about the human design strategies, authorities, and things of that nature. Because for 2026, we're focusing on how to embody our spirituality in a way that it works for us. We're no longer performing spirituality, we're embodying spirituality. I'm no longer going to be out there praying to every and all spirit guides without doing my own inner work. I'm making sure that I am properly receptive and understanding of all the help and assistance and guidance that I'm getting from the spirit guides. We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirits, our ancestors, and our spirit guides for today's class. May it continue to yield abundant forbidden fruit in our lives. Ashe, Ise, Kamaga, Thakosa, Lasedi, Makwande, Ayibobo. It is done, it is finished, it's complete in Yango. Amen, Ma'at. Thank you for coming to class. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm just trying to make sure that all the material that I said I was going to deliver in 2025, that's why I'm doing all these back-to-back classes. Make sure that I deliver that so that in 2026 we're taking off. Okay. I've put out a lot of foundational spirituality topics. You can go to my YouTube channel and binge watch what's there. I've put out so many things. And so we need to start moving above and beyond what I've been teaching in those videos. We need to be move. Okay. We need to move. We need to move. Okay. For those in the retreat, remember 6 a.m. CST, bright and early. I do have Reclaim Your Authority workshop that's coming up. I believe it's the third or fourth week of January. If you're ready to start taking your embodiment to another level, start embodying, start learning things you can do beyond rituals, beyond spells, beyond incantations, beyond that. How can you use your own spiritual energy, your own spiritual power to get work done? That's what we're doing in Reclaim Your Authority workshop. 7 days, hard work. You will be frustrated in a good way. You will be frustrated in a good way, but once you get it, you've gotten it. And it will start changing you in a fundamental way and change how you interact with your spirit guides, your spiritual crew. It will change you. Okay. So that one is coming up. If you need more information, please go to my website at tochi.us or drtochi.com. Thank you for the gift, Udella. Thank you for the dolphin. Thank you so much. Okay. I appreciate you. Right. So in that retreat, we're going to be embodying our spirituality instead of all the time, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. You will learn new ways to relate to your spirit guides. Because right now, majority of us are still at the help me stage. My goodness, Udema, 51 roses. Thank you. My goodness. 51 roses? Actually, 52. Wow. Thank you. I'm surprised. And you just showed up. Or have you been around for a minute? Sent a cake slice. I'm being fed over here on TikTok. I'm gonna leave y'all alone on YouTube and face TikTok. I'm getting fed over here, you know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. And even if you don't come to my retreats, I want you to start elevating your spiritual practice. I want you to start elevating how you show up spiritually for yourself. I want you to start elevating how you spiritually show up for yourself. We need to get beyond, oh, I gotta go beg this Orisha, I gotta go beg this law, I gotta go beg this deity, I gotta go beg this god and goddess. What can you do for yourself right now that will help you get the solution to your problems? So there are certain things you can do by yourself because you are a spirit, and as a spirit, you also have spiritual power. You are a spirit and you also have spiritual power. But your pastor won't tell you that. Your imam won't tell you that. Okay. And many times, even your uh, leader in your traditional religion won't tell you that. What can you do for yourself by yourself right now? There's so many things you can do. So that's where we're going in 2026. So if people are still at the help me stage, that is fine. Thank you. Thank you for the gift again. You know, if you're still at that stage, that's fine. We're leaving you behind. I want to know how to become that which I want. I want to know how to become that which I want. I want to know how to become that which I want. And it's not just sitting and doing visualizations, imagining, because we have now seen that the law of attraction doesn't quite work the way it was promoted to work. Law of attraction, no. We can see that there's a lot of things missing from that law of attraction that is preventing us from using that to help ourselves. So that's what we study there. What are the missing things in that law of attraction, that whole thing? Or is the whole law of attraction thing, is it a huge mess? And do we need to be looking at something else in order to solve our problems? Okay. So thank you for coming to class. I will see you all tomorrow. If I have the energy and time, I'll hop on tomorrow evening around the same time. Okay. Love you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank